Chapter 20. Lavore, 3rd of May, 1211. It is a strange feeling to come back from a death so certain that you thought all over forever. For a moment, I wonder if this is a new life beyond the walls of this world as grey blurs start to streak with colour. Then, as my sight returns, as the grey assumes the form of stonework familiar to me, that of the great hall, and the colours into pennants and people, I know I live still. Although, maybe, not for long. It's hard to assess too much, for I cannot move, not my body, nor my head. Even my eyes will not shift from gazing straight ahead. In front, I see my fellow perfects, good men and women, both kneeling. Though I can only see 7 or 8 familiar faces half obscured by cowls, I must assume there are more. From the angle of how I look at them, I'm in a similar position. It's hard to be sure though, because my attention is pulled to what is between us. We're at least 2 rows deep, and the slight curve, plus being opposite my fellows, makes me suspect we must be in a circular arrangement. Between us stands an altar, plain and simple, naught more than a wooden table with a white cloth laid across it. But what makes it beyond all doubt an altar, what makes it holy, and what makes my heart sink deep down into the depth of my stomach, is what sits upon it. The Holy Grail. An object delivered to our order just after the death of Christ by Mary Magdalene herself, if the tales are true, our most precious possession. Indeed, perhaps the most valuable in all of Christendom, and one I myself delivered to the safety of Foix. It looks like the Israelite rabbi was right to doubt the security of leaving it there. I curse myself for not having stayed to guard it, but my people's needs were great, and no one expected me to stand in perpetuity over it. All believed the vaults there impenetrable. As far as I know, Foix is not besieged, has not fallen. Apparently, their vaults are more permeable than we believed. Initially, my attention is all on the holy item. Unsurprising, given my head seems to be tilted to look directly at it. Now, however, I become aware that there are people in the centre as well as the Grail, and when I realise who, then my horror becomes complete. Perhaps I should not be surprised to see the 2 leaders, physical and spiritual, of the crusade here with us. One is bedecked in armour, a ruddy-cheeked, filled-out face wrapped in a curly brown beard. If it broke into a welcoming smile, you could believe the man to be an innkeeper, a welcome sight for respite on a wearying road. His expression, though, is dour, cold, and his eyes give the lie to that first impression. They're cold grey, almost dead. The eyes of a killer, and one who does so without hesitation or doubt. If I don't miss my guess, it's none other than Simon de Montfort, the newly raised up hero of the Albigensian Crusades, a man who's covered himself in such military glory in this conquest that he's gained more land now here in the Languedoc than the king of the Franks himself holds to the north. The other man I've seen before, once, long ago. He's no calmer now than he was then, when he railed from the pulpit against us, condemning us as heretics and sinners all. Now, as then, his eyes gleam with that same fanaticism that saw him put an entire city, 17,000 souls, to the sword to find a handful of good people. Kill them all. God will know his own were his words then, when he earned the title he now carries. The Butcher of Béziers, Archbishop Arnaud Almeric. His tonsured scalp glistens with sweat that sticks the scraggly mess of remaining red hair down to the sides of his head. His button nose might seem almost cherubic, were it not for the wide-eyed madness of his wild eyes sitting just above. Each time he strays into my vision, I can see his lips working furiously, his expression and the flecks of spittle flying from them, making it clear he's ranting in undoubtedly Puritan fury. My hearing has not yet returned, the world utterly silent around me, but I don't need to hear to know he's spewing forth his poisonous form of faith on all and sundry. But it's the third man that I can't quite believe is here, at least not free, walking in liberty, in companionship with the mortal enemies of our order. A bolded pate shining in the candlelight is my first clue, but it's the black robes he wears that brings to mind who he could be, as unbelievable as it seems. When he turns, when I see the eagle-like nose and the tightly drawn, smooth skin that could mark him as a man of 50 or equally of 70, ageless but undoubtedly senior, it's clear who he is. Papa Nicetas, the mysterious good man of Constantinople, the man who helped us establish the tenets of our faith and return to us in our hour of need, now standing shoulder to shoulder with those sworn to destroy us. And there is the other matter, the matter of the strange light that halos him like a bastardized version of a saint. It surrounds him, a glow that seems to come from the inside outwards, pouring from his skin, and not just him. It connects, stretching out languorous burgundy tendrils to each of the good people, encircling them. I can't move my eyes still, but I can see one reaching towards my midriff, and I don't doubt I'm similarly tethered. Perhaps it's why I can't move, why all my fellow perfects are kneeling, their eyes open but vacant. I have no doubt they are all bespelled. We are all bespelled, but some of the effect is lessened on me somehow, allowing me to be aware, perhaps because of the rabbi's gift. Right now, I'm far from sure it's a blessing. Nicetas is not the only glow in the place. The Grail is luminant, puissant, with a glaring light that makes me want to close my eyes, an impossibility, but one I'd resist even if it were not. I need to see what's going on, what's coming next. There's a popping noise, such as when a cork is pulled from a bottleneck, and my hearing comes pouring back. It's a deafening rush for a moment, the sensation of being swarmed by all the background noise I cannot see, the murmurs and clashes from outside as people rush to and fro, the sound of stone being heaved from one spot to another. No doubt to allow corpses to be carried for burning afore the rats set to with aplomb on the feast laid out for them. It takes me a second before I can focus on the conversation. When I do, it's to hear the Pope's man, Arnold Almeric, his high-pitched voice whining, demanding, "You think I cannot take it now, wizard? Do you believe yourself stronger than the Pope, heathen?" So, it sounds as though all is not paradisiacal between these assembled enemies. Nicetas looks entirely unbothered by the banded insult, but I see de Montfort's hand stray to his scabbard. So he's Nicetas's man more than the Pope's. It would be interesting, and something to exploit, were I able to move, or in a position to exploit anything at all. Nicetas's eyes flick to the soldier, and he gives a subtle shake. De Montfort relaxes, but his poise remains readied. A man of action through and through. The treacherous black robes turns his attention to Almeric, a reassuring smile across his stretched skin features. "Of course not, good priest. I am here to serve His Holiness in all things, though you may not approve of my methods. My magic is why I have been entrusted this mission by Innocent, and I must ask you to have faith in me a little longer. These satanic dogs have woven strange poisonous spells around this most holy of vessels, and were you to carry this all the way to Rome as it stands, I cannot think of the damage it might wreak upon the world, upon the holy see were you to reach it, upon yourself carrying it. I fear no such witchcraft. Almeric spits a green globule that splats on the floor in front of the feet of the good man opposite me. The Lord is my shield and sword. And I am his. The instruction is clear. There's a bass rumble to de Montfort's voice that speaks of arriving thunder and impending doom for those not prepared to listen. Almeric's eyes blaze. You are Philip's and the Pope's before that. It is by his authority you lead this holy endeavour, not these accursed creatures. And yet, Nisitas's voice is calm, calming, seeking to soothe the enraged monk. And yet, the Holy Father has faith enough in me to proceed with my plan to regain this holy relic and return it to its rightful place at the heart of Christendom. Would you question his wisdom as you question mine? The monk is practically spitting feathers, but he has no answer to that. Instead, he changes subject. And how will you lift these foul workings? When will it be ready? Why, 'tis simple. Nisitas's voice never changes, never lifts from that musical, placid state. What better way to cleanse it than in the blood of the heretics? It won't take long, my friend. Simon, if you would be so kind. De Montfort leaves my field of vision, but a moment later he is back with one of the good men, Guillaume of Plaisance-des-Touches, a bastide near to Toulouse itself. The man's legs work as the knight pushes him forward into Nisitas's waiting arms, and the murk lifts from his eyes, awareness returning to him. The spell woven over him is unravelling. Too late. As he reaches Nisitas's embrace, the thin Bogomil's arm whips up, and a razored Athame kisses deep into poor Guillaume's throat. A second later, the lifeblood gushes, pouring out, spattering across the simple wooden cup that somehow shines like a beacon, befouling it, defiling it as it sits on the altar. As the perfect life spark gutters, Nisitas lets him drop. But his hand is not empty. Contained within it is a strange, lit ball, like from the stories one might hear that tell of marshland spirits, will-o'-the-wisps floating in it. As he turns his back on the discarded corpse, as de Montfort seizes it and starts pulling it backwards, he casually drops the ball with a backhanded movement into the mouth of the cup itself. It seems to me the Grail's light dims, darkens. Whether it's the blood or the strange ball of energy he deposited, I do not know. I'm already gripped by nausea, though still unable to move to retch or expel my sickened grief from my gut. And it's only just the start. A moment later, de Montfort returns with Elaine of Castelnaudry and hurls her staggering into the mad wizard's arms. The blade comes up and bites once more, and the same thing occurs, and on, and on. Good person after good person is sacrificed, blood spilled across the holy relic. But it's the energy that's worse. If I have not missed my guess, it's that which is most precious to each lost person, and I can't escape the horrified feeling that Nisitas holds their very soul in his grasp. Even more terrible, each time he drops one into the cup, the light changes, reddening, and the world around the cup is not as it once was. It seems as though reality itself is thinning. There's a pressure, a sucking weight surrounding it, as if the air is a membrane stretching, and there is something on the other side. A presence gathers. I cannot see it, and for that I thank the good God, but I can feel it. a malevolence full of poisonous hatred towards all and every living thing pours through the weakening of whatever separates us from it. It holds no good intent, no love, no offer of anything but domination and destruction. It is a perversion that will swallow us all whole to satisfy its own smallest whim. Terror, like I have never known, runs ice through my blood. And I'm not alone in my unease. Almeric is sweating even more profusely than previously. His skin has taken on a chalk-like quality, and great rivulets run down his cheeks, down the nape of his neck. De Montfort is less affected, but still clearly disturbed. He shifts from foot to foot, a gauntleted hand flexing, opening and closing as though around an invisible pommel. It's as though he knows something is coming that will require fighting, but he also realizes he lacks the tools to do it. No easy sensation for a man of action, but I feel no sympathy for him. That is beyond me as I watch him deliver friend after friend to the mad bastard's blade. The air is thick with menace, a sensation so poisonous it feels like it might sneak into my veins and corrupt my flesh, turn it gangrenous. I want to flick my eyes down to see if I still possess my arms, my legs, my chest itself, or if it's all just a putrid mess riddled with rot. Of course, I can't move my eyes, cannot act, cannot even weep. All I can do is bear witness to what I feel more and more sure is the end of the world. Suddenly, there's a disturbance, a timid but insistent knocking at a door just out of sight to my right hand. A tremulous voice cries out, "My lord, please, my lord!" The voice is familiar, but I'm struggling to place it. De Montfort shoots a look across at Nithatas. The mad wizard snarls, his teeth bared, genuine emotion crossing his face for the first time, but he nods his acquiescence. De Montfort passes out of sight, though I can still hear his voice. "What is it, boy?" "Please, my lord, troops approaching from the south. Raymond of Foix's men rioting, seeking vengeance." "What?" Now, De Montfort sounds motivated, excited even. This is his field of expertise, more so than his patron's strange workings. Almeric, too, is drawn by the clamour and comes across. Even Nithatas' attention gets pulled that way, and he steps over toward the entrance. And, for the first time, it is a good thing I'm restrained by whatever foul working Nithatas has put upon me, because if not, I'd have jumped from my skin and screamed loud enough to wake the devil himself, for an arm wraps around mine and pulls at me. "Come, man, let's be gone." The familiarity brings me so many emotions. Joy, love, despair. My best friend, the man I love beyond all others, my brother in the black, Benedict. Now, I know, from where I recognize the boy who knocked at the door, it's the stable boy who fled through the side door with Ben. This is all some scheme he's laid. Perhaps originally he planned to try some sort of rescue for all the good people, but even he can see that lies beyond his capacities. But the good God love him, and damn me for having put him in this situation. He will not leave without trying to save me at least. Of course, his efforts are in vain. The arm he's furiously tugging on is weighted dead meat. He's not realized he needs to do everything, that I'm incapable of acting. His yanking becomes stronger, and for a moment I have hope. But suddenly they cease, and a second later he passes into my viewpoint, pulled forward against his will, hog-tied in that same claret energy. Nisitas advances upon him, magic crackling along his sable hud, fury in his eyes. My one relief is that Benedict doesn't wear the black robe, only simple peasant garments, doubtless aiming to pass in disguise through the streets. Nisitas, hopefully, doesn't recognize him as a perfect. He clearly recognizes an enemy, though. Who are you that dares to disturb this most sacred of moments? Now the Bogomil's voice is furious, whirling gales of words that aim to lacerate this bold intruder. Ben can't move, can't reach for a weapon, even if he could still use one without risking his own perfection. But he stands resolute, endlessly brave, his head held high, and without hesitation he spits clean in the face of the world-ending wizard to whom he is captive. He may not be able to lift a hand against the man, both due to the magic and the risk to his perfected soul, but he can still show his righteous disdain. A pox on you, you treacherous whoreson! His voice never wavers, never cracks. His courage is so strong, so true. I want to applaud, to weep, to pay tribute to his bravery. But, of course, I cannot. Nisitas wipes the phlegm from his face delicately with the sleeve of his robes and looks at my dearest friend with contempt. It matters not, he says, his voice once more calm and under control, looking directly at him. I know who you are. For a moment, my heart sinks. Terrified he's recognized Ben as a good man, that he'll steal his soul too for his perverted Eucharist. Instead, the faintest smile flickers across Nisitas's face. You're a dead man. And his athame whips out, razor sharp and true in aim for his throat. There's a moment, a noise halfway between a gurgle and a cry, and my student, my best and truest friend, my would-be rescuer, the man I love as a brother, my strong right hand and shield, falls. The only mercy is that Nisitas turns from him, doesn't take his soul, not recognizing his perfection. It's ashes in my mouth, though, seeing him lying there. He thrashes a moment, then stills, and I could weep. Then comes a shock, like a bucket of ice water thrown liberally to the face, because I do weep. I feel the tear rolling down my face, and for a moment I think that my grief is so strong it alone has broken the spell. And then I realize I can move my eyes, that I can choose where to look, so I glance downward and see that Ben's tugging was not in vain. The toes of my right foot were knocked from their original position with the jostling and have crossed the chalk circle I did not even realize I knelt in. And somehow, with that action, the working has been weakened. The spell is breaking.